I am Gladys Changachirere. I am a Zimbabwean. I am a women's rights activist. I would say, well, I'm proud to be Zimbabwean. It's a country that believes so much in our tradition, in our history, and the larger population really believes that you have to do good to others, just you would want them to do unto you. And they want to see the country moving forward. Speaking broadly about its politics, I would say everyone has a dark side of life and every nation has a dark side. So this dark side tends to overshadow, the light that Zimbabwe has. We are not yet there in terms of democracy. We still have a long way to go because for me, I think when we begin to talk about democracy at that level, we begin to talk about a society in which one's views are respected, no matter which way they are going towards. Really, every Zimbabwean was just frustrated, pissed off, so to say. It's also a highly patriarchal society where men tend to dominate women, in a number of spheres. The religious, even in politics, at social level. But upon getting into varsity, I actually realized that most girls or most young women really, they just wanted to proceed with their education, but it didn't really, have a meaning in their lives because then you're just going to school, but at some point you get married and then you look up to your husband and so forth. So as I was growing up, I could see, those tendencies where the family tends to have a bias towards the boy child, and really there was no priority to educate the girl child. It's very complex, really, for one to be just a girl child in a rural setup because there are so many societal expectations around you before you even know who you are. Society really puts more emphasis on modeling you for the betterment of the society rather than investing in you and what you need to see of yourself.
Mukukura kwake kubva ari mudiki anofanira kuva ari mwana anoteerera vabereki. Wani ateerera vabereki, mwana anosungirwa kuti ave mwana anotumika, anoti kana asati aendawo kuchikoro.
At the same time, you also have your personal to take care of. You need to be able to bath and to dress in a certain way. And you also need to be able to always respect the elders, no matter what they say to you, no matter how they talk to you, no matter how they treat you.
Tuomera semadzimai echidiki nekuti takanga tisina chokuita community. Most of us vazhinji vacho vavana kuenda kuchikoro tikapedza.
Some of those things are things that I was questioning as I was growing up, to say, so really a young woman or a girl can't have a life of their own? There wasn't that emphasis, to say we're investing in your education, therefore we are investing in you, and this should ultimately shape your life. Say my parents, they really wanted us to go through secondary school, but I think they had financial resources because my farm was just a farm manager at a church farm where he was doing more of charity work than working to earn income and then send us to school.
Saka Gladys wakaita chikoro asvika muform 3 ndopandakabata dambudziko rakakura. Akarwara akuitanga kuita form 3. Akarwara zvekuti first term yese haana kutomboenda kuchikoro, ende handina kuzombofungira futi kuti anga azoenda kuchikoro. Zvino sezvinoita Mwari akazongoti raramei, akazotanga chikoro muna May, akazovavarira kuenda kuuniversity.
They didn't see the need for me to go to university because one, they didn't have the money, and two, they were not sure what value that was going to add to me and also to their family. So it was really my hard pressing that saw me going to university. The government was still able to provide students with some grants or some loans, but however, when I was in my second year now, the government changed the policy. They introduced fees to university students, and it was very, very difficult for me, to go through and finish my varsities.
Ndikumubhadharira mari shomanana yakarejistwa kuuniversity asi mari zhinji yese akazvibhadharira wega.
So I resorted to working during vacations and then paying for my fees.
Maholidays ese akanga asisauye pano pamusha achiti akapedza chikoro chete vakanga vavhara paholiday oenda kunotsvaka basa osevenza kusvikira akavavarira kuuniversity yese akazvipedzera wega.
I became part of the students' movement that was fighting for the scrapping of those fees and, demanding the government to revert back to the loan system because we could just not afford to pay for our fees. And for most students really were from, poor backgrounds. I was just so determined, to make a difference.
Ndaingomushuvira kuti avewo mwana anoonekwawo mukati mevamwe vana asi handina kunge ndakatarisira pane zvaasvika iyezvi. Pari nhasi ari kundiratidza kuti
in my other life when I was a student, I was very radical and my father used to know me, expressing myself the way I felt at that particular moment. Sometimes with no respect. When you look at a young woman, especially coming from a rural background, there is a multi-layer of discrimination, oppression, and obstacles. No matter how pleasant or unpleasant the situation is, we are so scared of, trying to open the box and see how much light there is out there. Much as people are afraid of, seeing things differently, I think there's always a part of them really that wants them to see that, but just that they're not brave enough, or maybe they need a push, to say, no, you can go towards that direction and try to, experience it yourself. So when I joined the students' movement, it was also, my desire to say, we are equally the same as our male counterparts and we can equally represent our other students. I think as young women, we need to redefine ourselves, both to ourselves and also to the society. They need to see a young woman in a different way altogether. So it was those, cumulative trends that just pushed me to the edge to say I need to be able to do something about this. And we need to be able, to have a space really where we need to talk about our life.
Sister, 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 sister.
The Institute for Young Women Development was primarily created to be able to, create a platform whereby you are then able to begin looking for solutions for the challenges that you're facing. Our vision really is to see a society in which young women are able to have access to resources and opportunities to live a life of their choice. Young women were not being seen as equal citizens, so we didn't have a right to human dignity as what our boys or male counterparts had.
Katanga upenyu wakatanga kuya, even our rights chaiwo tanga tisingazive ma-human rights edu semadzimai echidiki tasingakwanise kuzvimirira mudzinga dzedu.
So we've done a lot of work around educating young women on their rights, beginning with the socio-economic and political rights. So we've also spoken about the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, which speaks highly to the kind of life that young women in rural communities go through. We have a national law called the Domestic Violence Act. It speaks basically against eradicating domestic violence that mainly is targeted at women by virtue of being women. That's how you begin then challenging or directly challenging, the existing system and existing structures. So it's this over-dependence on our male counterparts that we also wanted to work on reducing, so that the young women are also able to have, a certain level of choice where they will determine what they want, how they want it, and how they can do it. So we actually came up with a pillar of entrepreneurship and livelihoods that basically sought to promote entrepreneurial thinking to have a sustainable livelihood. We also found it that for our work to be effective, we also needed to influence the community at large. People who are key players in as far as justice delivery is concerned are the traditional chiefs. My wow moment was when we were able to bring to the table traditional chiefs, to begin dialoguing with us and to see them express interest in the work that we were doing. And we trained them on young women's rights, encouraging them to use a rights-based approach rather than a traditional approach. They were very receptive of that. And they even went to an extent of inviting us to play a paralegal role in these courts and be able to influence their judgments.
Saka mwanasikana ndakaona kuti ini akakosha. Ndakazoona ini kuti kudzidzisa mwanasikana hakusi kuparadza nguva, ndo kuzvichengeta mangwana anokuchengeta.
Zvakawanda zvakatibatsira institute takakwanisa kupuwa maproject kuti tikwanise kunge tichizvimiririrawo tichitawo mabasa emaoko semadzimai.
Basa iri ndinoona kuti rakanaka. Vana vasikana kuchikoro nevakomana chinhu chakanaka chinoburikidza nharaunda yedu.
Zvino apa ndiri kuona kuti Gladys watiita kuti tibatane zvakanyanya. Tiri kubatsirana naGladys pamwe chete, vari kushuwira kuti tienderere mberi.
My partner, we actually have a shared vision. He is also a human rights defender. So he's very supportive to the kind of work that I do, and with him I have no problems.
I've come to appreciate Lenny's work more from the young women's perspective, knowing that myself, herself, we are still young people, and we both still belong to the demographic group that we would call young people. So I've come to appreciate that their work is a bit removed from the conventional civic society work that you will find taking root in Zimbabwe.
Takanga tiri vanhu kuti takanga tisina zvekuita muupenyu. Even our human rights semadzimai, women's rights semadzimai, rights edu burikidza neInstitute for Young Women.
When I began my activism, there wasn't really anybody I had seen to say, well, this is my role model. And also because of growing up in a rural setup, you have little access to the media. So you don't know much about women who are doing things out there. But as I then, intensified my activism, I began to see myself in other women who were also, fighting for women's rights and representing the rights of even the young women. But I wouldn't say I'm a social worker. For me, really, there's a certain drive, that tells me that I need to actively do something in order to bring about the transformation that I need to see. I'm very positive about things. There are some things that you just can't run away from. The biggest challenge are the misconceptions around activism work, where people already have these, illusions and feelings that you are driving a certain agenda. Like for me, when I was a student activist, really, I was very radical in terms of approach and just for representing students' interests and fighting for female students' rights. There are still elements that feel that they are quite comfortable with the status quo, so they'll do anything really, to suppress all the voices that try to speak out. There's a lot of censorship, there's a lot of, mistrust, and so it's a very scary terrain, where I'm treading. If you are a change maker, people need to hear you. You need to be able to speak out, but you're really clear and you are strong about what you believe in and what you want to see. So the idea also to mobilize and to organize young women is also to say how can we challenge, these systems that all around us are deterring us, from being who we really are. We need to be the masters of our own destiny.
Saka nebasa rake iri ndinozoona zvakakodzera kwazvo kuti vana amai iye dai Mwari achimukomborera agona kuenderera mberi nokupawo dzidzo kuna vamwe ana amai kuti vaitewo samai vake vakamuchengeta.
Kare kwanga kusina dzidzo yakanaka, iye zvino iri kukurudzirwa kuti tinofundisa vana vedu hatichaita zvataita kare nekudzvinyirirwa ayo ndezvino tiri kukurudzira kuti zviri kufambira mberi.
I say Gladys is not going to take a rest until she sees that the young women themselves have a free political space to participate within the democratic processes that takes place in the country.
Tichizvimirira kuti nyika yedu ibudirire ende tichikwanisa kunge tichisimudza vamwe vedu madzimai ari mucommunity yedu yatinawo, tikwanisa kuvapo ruzivo norubatsiro kuti vakwanise kusimuka vachitirowo patiri kuonapo.
Angautaya kumusha akagona kubatsira kumusha kwake kwaabva nekumberi kwaari kuenda arongobatsira futi, saka ndinobidza nezvakare zvakaita mwoyo waana wewo.
It's quite important really for the society to realize that when they invest in a young woman, they are investing in their communities and therefore their nation.
Wakanga aine chishuwo mumwoyo make chatakanga tisingaoni tese vamwe. Ndinokumbirisa kuti ini dai isu vanhu tikaita mweya wekuti mwana musikana mwana mukomana vese vana pana asiri munhu